Words is like 80% of what we ship. And our words, they kind of sucked. The whole communication of the product just kind of becomes like, it's not the same person or product talking to you. I was thinking, we need to rewrite these. Can we get AI to do this for us? What is your tone? What is your voice? What do you want to feel like as a product? How should we communicate? After I defined this, I went into Claude Code and I was like, go launch some Explore agents and give me an inventory of all the toast copywriting that we have and just give me a table. I just let an AI sort of, with the prompt, just let it rip over them. And then I reviewed them and I tweaked them on a individual basis. So I did do like a human review of everything. And then once everything was rewritten, I basically switched back to my text editor, so Cursor, and just said, hey, there's this column in Notion. Go take a look at it. And then based on the inventory you made earlier, just replace all the text. Thankfully for AI, we were sort of able to do this and do this like within a day across the entire product.
Well, today we're going to jump into one of my favorite shares during all of our team meetings, which is learning about our design systems and the things that Martin, you and Chris are doing to scale design and build a thoughtful product. So today, let's talk about notifications. Tell me about this. Like, how did we get here today?
The way that all our products communicate with our users is through notifications and toasts in a way. So the system or the product is essentially communicating to the user if something went wrong, if an action actually worked, or if there's something the user needs to do in a second step after they've done something in the app. And I think we've sort of accrued a little bit of like design debt. It's one of those things that accrues over time in terms of like a designer designs like one little notification and puts some like one sentence, one liner of like, this is the toast. And, you know, over time, like everyone has their different way of writing these. And then like the whole communication of the product just kind of becomes like, it's not the same person or product talking to you. And so these toasts end up being really, really sort of weird and not consistent in how they communicate. I was thinking, okay, like we need to rewrite these. This is annoying. Can we get AI to do this for us? Okay, so we're talking about toasts or notifications, and not only on mobile, but also the web product. Like if you think about design or product design, like words is like 80% of what we ship. Like if you just think of raw elements on a UI, it's like, yeah, you draw boxes, but most of the elements on the page are actually words. And our words, they kind of sucked. A lot of words. I don't actually know what this means. It's more like an affirmation, like you renamed the folder. And it's like, okay, great, but to what? And so think of this improved version, but across all notifications and consistently. So like a verb is always at the front, and then sort of what happened is in the first sentence, and then what the user might have to do next in the second one. I guess the like process that we took and that I can guide you through. Well, first, what is your tone? What is your voice? What do you want to feel like as a product? How should we communicate? I'll explain the difference between tone and voice, because voice never really changes. It's sort of your personality, and tone does, depending on the situation a user's in, right? Basically, what I did was, after I defined this, in Notion, I wrote a guide, and we can go through that. I went into Claude Code, and I was like, Mr. Claude, go launch some Explore agents and give me an inventory of all the toast copywriting that we have, and just give me a table. And then what I did, you could continue in Claude Code, but I pushed it into Notion, into a database to rewrite it. And so I had an overview of all the toast notifications. I used an MCP to push it from the code base basically into Notion. That was the bulk of the work, just rewriting everything. And then once everything was rewritten, I basically switched back to my text editor, so Cursor, and just said, hey, just like now there's this column in Notion, go take a look at it. And then based on the inventory you made earlier, just, you know, replace all the text.
So what I'm curious is like where this is being pulled out of. Like, is this in an engineering workflow that then is being kind of pulled out and built into the design system? Is that pretty common for like this to live within kind of how developers are building the product in the first place? Or yeah, where does it start?
It depends how your engineering team is organized. In our case, a lot of this stuff was just in line, which made it really hard to just do one big swoosh without actually having an agent explore, what's our inventory, where are all the pieces.
Yeah, I think let's dive into the inventory if you wouldn't mind. I would love to see. I think this is just so relatable.
I just have like a screenshot of what I did with Claude, but essentially I asked it to create an inventory of all the notification toast text and put it into like groups, so success toasts or error notifications, and just create a table and a description of how it's used. And like here you can kind of see like the files that they're in, so they're kind of all in line on different lines in that file. And then sometimes you might have dynamic values, so you deleted a folder, and then obviously the folder name that the user just deleted might be passed in. And this takes like 5 minutes, right? You just basically prompt Claude to go explore the code base and try to list all the toast notifications. The natural question from here is, I need to rewrite this. How do I rewrite it? Like, if another designer comes in, like Chris, will he know how to rewrite stuff or write a new notification in our tone and voice? So essentially what I created was just a writing playbook. It's just a document that captures kind of our voice and our tone, and that these things are distinct. The example here is actually from Facebook from like a bazillion years ago, but yeah, it's just like a little bit of a thought exercise on, okay, your voice doesn't actually change, but your tone does, right? It could be more celebratory, it could be more sympathetic, it could be more informative. And so, welcome to Facebook, celebration after the onboarding, right? Or here's 3 ways to get started, or we're here to help you get started, right? Like depending on what context is the user in, what are they feeling, like the words change. The voice is sort of branded, but the tone might change based on the situation the user's in. Put the user and the impact before system details, like error 500, like I don't care. Like what happens? Like what did I just do as a user? And like where's the impact? What do I need to do next? Right? And we want to sound like a reliable teammate and not a robot. We want to make next steps obvious and low friction. So we want to like be helpful, right? Like what does being helpful mean? Like what is the next action I should take if something goes wrong, or if I did something, like I created a folder, like what do we want to incentivize? We want people to create more jams, right? Time to value in the product. Use the same words for the same concepts across the product. Like that was just clearly not true reading through the inventory. Acknowledge when we make mistakes and tell users like what is safe. Like, oh, we couldn't save your draft, like, but we couldn't create your jam, but we saved it as a draft, right? Oh, okay, cool, thank you. And it's here, right? Like you can go take a look at it. And then we wanted to avoid vague language, which we used quite a bit. Like something went wrong, which is like, great, what is something and how do I fix it? Use blamey language. Like if we make a mistake, we shouldn't like blame the user. Like you did not fill out X correctly. Go fill it out correctly, right? Like email forms, whatever. There's many ways of saying it, right? I think a lot of people coming from different cultures might relate. This is definitely how you would say it in German. Like you would be very direct, or like in the Netherlands, it's like you did do the job correctly. But there's also other cultures where you can formulate that sentence a little bit differently, and more nicely, where it's like, hey, we caught an error in the email. It's not about blaming the user. We also had a lot of jokes and playfulness in some of the notifications. And while those are fine if they're clear and energetic and they have to fit the situation, like let's not make jokes when there's like incidents, spilling, or some sort of data loss for the user. That just doesn't feel right. Kind of like when a user does something very simple in the product and you celebrate it with an exclamation mark. It's like, you created a folder. Like, okay, whoa. Seems a little bit weird. And I think like as a designer, when I'm writing these, what I'm thinking about is a real conversation. Like imagine the user interface is actually a person and it would react to whatever you're doing in the product. And if it feels out of place, you probably need to tone it down, like quite literally change the tone.
You do all these things a scrappy way, and then you kind of forget they exist. And then you look at your writing back and you're like, oh, that was 9 months ago. And we were in a different place and thinking about this differently. What do you do from here?
Essentially what we then did is like, we created quite a long, sophisticated prompt where you essentially put the original copy in at the top. And we then have everything that you just saw in the doc sort of in a prompt form. And this is to be used with thinking models. So that, there's stuff in there like the categories, please create a scratch pad, create multiple versions of it. It's pretty long. And then it produces 5 options. But this is like just also a quick way to just copy this out, put it into Claude or ChatGPT or Claude Code or whatever, and just put the original copy or the thing that you're actually trying to say verbatim, and then it outputs something that is sort of UX copywriting aligned. And that's what I did as a next step. And then, as I said, I had Claude Code basically pull an inventory, which you see here on the left. I basically used Jam MCP, so I had cursor open, and I was like, go search the code base and create an inventory and then push that to Notion. And I'm just using Notion because I use it as an interface layer, temporary interface layer, to just then get a nice little table overview. And of course, like I just let an AI sort of like with the prompt that we just showed, like just let it rip over them. And then I reviewed them and I tweaked them on a individual basis. So I did do like a human review of everything. And then once I felt like comfortable with the text, I went back into Claude and basically told it to apply everything. So update its plan with the new copy, map everything, and then just apply it. And it would have the actual files it would need to apply it to. So, and the lines even. And then I just repeated that exercise for iOS, which is a different code base, but and has different sort of notifications and errors, but now has the same tone. And then I did it for the extension as well, which is in our case like part of the web app, but it is in a separate repo and a separate product.
I can imagine just the amount of time you could spend doing this if you didn't have a natural way to abstract this and then apply changes and like think through every single first draft. How I'm a new PM on the team. I'm banging away on some requirements and building something out, and go to build some language for notifications. How do you make sure that these things are applied going forward, to your point of like make sure it doesn't happen again? Where does this go next?
The best thing you can probably do is just make it super easy for folks, which is like just create a common prompt, right? You can also, depending on how technical your team is, like we have it on Notion, but like you could have this be an MD file in your code base. If your PMs are super technical and actually like, creating branches and doing stuff in your code base. Like if you just have a guide, like people will read it, but they'll have their own interpretation of like how to apply this, or maybe they'll not read it. So I think just creating a prompt for them that's really easy to copy. What I actually like doing is just create a project for yourself and then just have that long prompt be the instruction, right? That tends to work really well.
I guess last question for you, for like any designer who's like building an early stage company, building this for themselves. Yeah. Having gone through this process, like any parting wisdom of like where to start? Is it simply like just export the inventory and get going, or like, yeah, any other thoughts of what could make this process easy for people?
Probably the hardest part is bubbling up and thinking about like, how should your product feel? And the true answer to that really is like, use the human analogy of like, what if the product talked to you, and like, how do you want it to feel? And do you feel like that fits your brand? Like the response, if your product were a person. The other thing is just like use a bunch of products that a lot of people use, and and see what the words are on those notifications in a way, right? And you'll just realize people don't read on the internet, and most likely your notification text is way too long. Um, and so, yeah, like there's probably something about also just, just start using a ton of products that you really like, and where those notifications feel helpful, or actually feel like wow, this product is doing a great job at communicating with me. Much like, you go to a conference, or you watch a podcast, or listen to a podcast, and you can tell if someone is a great communicator. And I think that is true for products as well.
Yeah. So as my non-designer brain takes it, the 3 rules of thumb are: people aren't going to read, folders should not be energetic, and just start with an inventory.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Martin. Appreciate you walking me through this.
Yeah. Okay, cool.